Estamos aquí, tenemos la mayoría del grupo, así que vamos a seguir. Tengo que seguir recordándome que, que no deje que mis emociones me controlen mi lengua. Heidi María López, ella. Estoy tan emocionada y tan lista para esta conversación que tengo que seguir recordándome que hable más despacio. Pero estamos aquí por ustedes. Estamos aquí teniendo una conversación de sana, de sanación, amor y libertad. Tenemos en esta conversación gentes que ustedes pidieron, gentes que conocen, que son Gina y Juju, que van a ser parte de la conversación. Así que estamos muy emocionadas porque sé que algunos de ustedes han tenido la oportunidad de tener conexión con ellas y con su medicina. Así que sí, veo los snaps. Veo lo piu, piu, piu. Así que estamos muy emocionados para esta conversación. Quiero hablar un poquito de cómo llegamos a este punto a tener esta conversación y más en este lugar del encuentro. Primariamente ustedes la pidieron, ¿verdad? Porque saben que el trabajo que ustedes hacen no es aparte de la sanación y justicia, ¿verdad? Entonces nos dijeron tiempo tras tiempo que las sesiones de une son perfectas, son necesarias y a la misma vez que quieren ver que la sanación y justicia estén más en las sesiones que tenemos como grupo completo. Así que fue respondiéndole a lo que ustedes pidieron que estamos aquí. También, aunque como todas las conversaciones jugosas, aunque nosotros estamos teniendo esta conversación entre nosotros, como quien dice, es con el grupo entero, porque queremos afirmar que aquí hay bastantes sanadores. Aquí hay tanta gente que tienen prácticas bellas, históricas, ancestrales y que van a aportar en este espacio, pero también van a seguir las conversaciones en sus pods. Así que queremos afirmar que como cualquier conversación jugosa, está pasando entre nosotros, la gente que son de que es los invitados, pero sabemos que está pasando entre nosotros, entre todos. ¿Sí? Y también que más seguro en este tiempo que tenemos juntos, no vamos a decir nada nuevo. Así que si alguien estaba esperando como que un milagro o una vaina del otro mundo, no va a pasar, ¿verdad? Somos gente que traemos tradiciones ancestrales, cosas que vienen de nuestra gente, que están enraizados en nuestra cultura, ¿verdad? Y que simplemente estamos transmitiendo lo que sentimos que es un regalo que tenemos para este tiempo, pero no es que estamos diciendo de que algo nuevo, algo del otro mundo, simplemente compartiendo lo que tenemos para compartir. Así que quiero comenzar con eso, ¿verdad? Que la justicia y la sanación no son cosas nuevas necesariamente, aunque cada persona trae su propia magia y trae su propia forma de poder hacer esto. Okay. Entonces, sana, el nombre de esta conversación, como le he dicho varias veces para algunas gentes que ya lo han oído o que lo saben de sus propias culturas o de su familia, viene de un dicho que a mí me decían y que ahora yo le digo a los niños de mi familia, que es cuando alguien se da una herida, y cuando se lo traen usualmente a un adulto, usualmente a una mujer de la familia, pero cualquier adulto. Tú tienes que mirar a la persona pequeña y decirle, oh, te diste, no, está bien, está bien. Sana, colita de rana, si no se sana hoy, se sana mañana. Tú tienes que decirle así y tienes que darle un besito para que se sienta mejor. Y esa es la medicina. Esa es la medicina, decir eso. Y de una vez te sientes mejor. Así que si en cualquier momento alguien necesita eso, yo voy a poner mi número de teléfono en el chat para que me llame, para que yo sana, colita de rana. Así si alguien, yo veo que hay gente que se están sonriendo, puede hacer que eso le hagan resonar también que se lo decían. Veo que hay negrita diciendo que sí, parece que se lo decían, ¿verdad? Y la razón por la cual pensamos en eso como un título es porque hay una magia a esta práctica, ¿verdad? Hay algunas cosas que se pueden aprender, que se pueden conocer, que tú puedes decir, voy a poner un poquito de esto, un poquito del otro, pero también hay la parte de esta sanación y también justicia en nuestros movimientos, que tú puedes tener todas las estrategias, todas las tácticas, todas las ideas de cómo tú vas a hacer la cosa y al final del día algunas veces hay una magia que no se puede explicar, que también uno aporta para lo que uno, que entra como tiene su propia energía y su propia fuerza y que también tiene su lugar en lo que nosotros hacemos. Entonces, para nosotros, esa es la sanación y la justicia. Y queremos también estar claro que para nosotros es importante siempre combinar esas dos cosas, ¿verdad? Porque hay muchas formas de sanación, como dijimos, de liderazgo, que no tiene que ver nada con justicia. Yo me puedo hacer las uñas, yo me puedo ver bien, yo me puedo sentir bien individualmente, pero eso no necesariamente está diciendo que está cambiando las condiciones materiales para nadie menos que a mí, ¿verdad? Entonces estamos claros que estamos hablando de la justicia y la sanación. Es esa conversación que estamos teniendo y que reconocemos que no es como tener una lista de tácticas y prácticas sin tener también una magia y una fe que entra a esta conversación y a este proceso. Entonces queremos reconocer todo eso. Eso era parte de lo que hablé con Gina y con Juju para explicar esta conversación y decir si se pueden unir, si pueden compartir con nosotros cómo es que ellos hacen su trabajo, cómo es que para ellos ven que su práctica, su modalidad de ser sanación trae justicia, crea justicia, que es lo que tiene que ver con la justicia, y no sea solamente un espacio de teoría, pero también un espacio de práctica. Así que les invites a que en este momento cojan una posición para sus cuerpos, donde se sienta que tengan acceso a lo que se necesiten para la comodidad, para estar abierto, para recibir, porque con cada persona que conteste la pregunta, y Gina va a ir primero, se lo voy a pasar ahora, también le van a traer un pedacito de nuestra práctica, ¿sí? Un pedacito de nuestra práctica. Así que Gina, te doy la bienvenida, va a ser la primera persona que vas a compartir y la pregunta es para ti, la misma pregunta que hemos estado contestando, que es para ti y tu práctica, qué es lo que tu sanación tiene que ver con la justicia, y por favor ofrécenos, si puedes, de la manera que puedes, si quieres, un poquito de tu práctica en este espacio.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you so much, my beloved. I'm so grateful that you asked, and I'm honored to be sitting with you and Juju and our family around this question. Thank you. And hey, y'all, I want y'all to know it's good to see your faces. I keep my Zoom in gallery mode, so even if you don't feel like being seen today, I see whatever picture you may have posted. I see your name. The names carry vibration. I lean into what I can see, and I welcome what I receive. It gives me a sense of this circle. I firmly understand that any circle reflects the folk who are there and your people that you walk with. And so that means something to me. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be sitting with y'all again. I've been holding this question since we first got on the phone about it. And I feel like I don't separate liberation and healing. I never have. I have only recently gotten some new language around the urgency that I have always felt. And it's connected to liberation. And what I think of as true freedom, because I'm sure y'all know we have a lot of fake ass freedom in this country. And so I think of what true freedom is, right? And for me, it's a steady practice of getting to choose what I think, right? Getting to choose how I use the weight and power and the vibration of my words. And that's a daily practice, right? Because I am weaned on, the colonized mind. It's in the fabric of everything. Even, when I was a baby girl, I think, oh, that was in my cereal, So I have surrendered to this, possibility that when I close my eyes on this realm, I may still very much be in practice, in practice of ownership. Heidi. And so how that has evolved and how it's connected to the medicine of sound is in the power of naming, in the power of placing myself inside of my body, owning my body, owning myself where harm has been done, and and evicting narratives that do not serve, evicting lies. And the lies here are constant and steady, as we know. For me, if I can when I sit in front of folk, and I am able to guide people, folk, community, however one is identifying, because in spirit, and please, I mean no disrespect here, but when I'm in spirit, there's no binary systems around, like this, our systems here in this country are so heavily reliant on measuring, right? This against that, good or bad, all the things we know, right? And in spirit, there's no such language. And I find that, I'm rolling into my 57th year. I've been, doing this work. Yay, hey, 50s. I must say it has been a deeply and profoundly rewarding decade. Let me just say that and I have enjoyed every decade, y'all. Let me say that as well. But as I move into, and one of the gifts of practice is you start to feel comfortable in a practice. And I'm quite clear about the power, the vibration, the power of vibration, the power of sound, right? I'm clear that vibration moves things, right? And I'm clear that whatever I'm focusing on, I am worshiping and giving my essence, my ashe to. And so to that end, in a sound practice, I have been able to reclaim myself, do soul retrieval, get myself back. And I am able to do that with other folk, right? And by that, I mean taking yourself out of the, from my own life, taking myself out of the horror of sexual abuse, right? Owning my womb, owning my pleasure, owning my power, and not allowing this horrific thing that happened from like 5 to 13 rule the rest of my life, right? And I've been able to do that through a sound practice, through spirit work, and through getting on other folks' tables, for those places in my body that I can't reach on my own, and I'm so able to say, I own it, right? And so I'm through my testimony, through sound, and through being in this work, and that is absolutely tied to liberation, I think I've always been obsessed with it, frankly, it's part of my wiring, I have learned, like these machetes that I came here with, I've learned to use them on illusion and not on other people and not on myself. That's another gift of 50s, right? It's like, oh, I need this blade. It's essential equipment, but and I need to use it so that it is of service, right? So yes, so I'm going to bring some practice forward, family, and I thank you for letting me know, Heidi, because I could go on and talk about liberation and practice, I could go on.
Y yo quiero que tú sigas, pues yo tenía que darte, especialmente cuando comenzaste a hablar de...
Thank you, beloved. And I will say, so this naming, this power of sound, this power of evicting narratives and placing yourself in these rooms in your own body, I feel it's essential. When I'm sitting in rooms like MEV and the Cohort, it's exciting to me to hold holders. And my encouragement, my invitation is holders, allow yourselves to be held, right? Because we need it, right? We all need that kind of witness and cradling. And so in this practice, which really is going to be 2 minutes, y'all, and it doesn't, what's long, that's another misconception. 2 minutes a day of humming into your body, humming into your solar plexus. Please, we're going to use this image, though, of the rivers that I shared with you all, the rivers, and we're just using the rivers of the United States, right? You see, fam, It looks, I mean, just, the thing that Heidi said in the beginning about we're all practitioners here, right? Which we are. I notice that things come through and across our altars generally at the same time. What can be different is that we lean into it and we mine it and we make a practice of it, or maybe not. But frequently you'll see a thing, hear a thing and go, oh, I dreamt about that, or I feel connected to that. These are the river basins, the riverbeds, how the rivers flow through these here United States. Grace gifted me with an understanding that rivers move through and carry grief and carry rage and carry things that are not of service to us, to the oceans to be repurposed. Right. And so when I think of the way the rivers run through, I think of the veins of our bodies. I think about the way water is moved by vibration. I think about the vibration of sound and how we can gift ourselves with naming or mantras that shift the flow of energy in our bodies. And thinking of it as the blood is moving around our bodies, gifting it with new narratives or a new song. You can use the language that appeals to you, but putting it in your blood and sending it to your heart, sending it to your liver, sending it to your kidneys, sending it to the pelvic floor, and so on, sending it to your skin, right? And so this thing about practice and liberation is I know that if I'm going to be doing the work of liberating those in front of me or, alongside, I must begin with my own body and stay in my own practice. So y'all just take a moment with me. We are going to do some sounding. We're going to keep it very simple, as in we're going to stay inside of one note. If you find a rhyme, a rhythm, a harmony in that note, please take it. I'm going to ask you to take a moment to take your eyes off of me and soften or close your eyes or rest your eyes on something beautiful. A shaft of light, the window, something growing in your home, wherever you are, and lean into what you can hear, which is the sound of my voice. And in this moment, this bowl, which is tuned to the heart chakra, borrowing from that inexhaustible and beautiful science. And listen, and if you feel so led, join in with me with a hum or toning, and keep your awareness for this moment on your beating heart, family, something we all have in common. What you are sending is the sound of your voice and the intention for peace, ease. So you might marry that with some imagery of a field of yellow or purple, or an endless sky of stars, or flowing water, or this river basin, this riverbed, this understanding from a bird's eye view that there's always another possibility. Inhaling together through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. And listen and join. Or hum. Hum. If you don't have a voice today, please lean into mine, and you can take this image down, please, from the screen. Breathing and humming, using your voice, sending it into your solar plexus, your heart, sending it into a part of your body that may feel like it's wounded or in need of touch or sound, is an opportunity and an opening. It's a point of entry, family. If you have some stress at the back of your neck, in your throat, the weight of the unsaid is caught there. There's so many ways to use your hum, the sound of your voice, putting your name there. Whatever you wish, that's the power of naming, of the vibration. And it also can remind us of our body wisdom. We get confused by the cacophony of noise and the steady stream of lie. So that's just one practice, beloved family. And there's so many names for it, right? If you put on gospel on every day and that moves it, or R&B, or for me, I pretend to be Chaka Khan, whatever. Sound medicine is a powerful, potent, and always available medicine. There you are, my darling Heidi. I will pass it back to you. I think that that's my time. Thank you.
Sí, sí, hay un sonido que que queremos darle a Gina, por favor, quítense de mudo. Si hay algo que quieren compartir, una apreciación, una gracia para esa práctica, lo pueden poner en el chat, pueden quitarse de mudo. Belle. Ujú. Y seguimos con las otras prácticas, gracias para eso. Me hizo pensar tanto en alguna vez la manera de la cual los sonidos son depreciados. Pero Chaya, como dijo cuando comenzamos, que en su cultura hay mucho movimiento de la mano, muchos seños del cuerpo. Yo pienso también en todos los sonidos que uno hace, en lo que tú estabas hablando, yo estoy, ajá, y toda la cosa. Es un idioma que nosotros algunas veces con mi gente yo puedo tener una conversación entera y nunca decir algo que se construye como una palabra, pero no entendemos completamente. Ujú. Sabemos si aprobamos, si no aprobamos de lo que está diciendo. Alguna vez es la manera que yo me quito un disgusto sin que me boten del trabajo. Así que gracias por recordarnos del poder de los sonidos, de conectarnos a nuestro cuerpo y de la historia que sostiene la conexión a la tierra, ¿no? Sí, gracias. Bueno, eso nos trae para lo que yo quiero compartir antes que se lo pase a Juju para que nos los lea las barajas, que es lo que yo también estoy emocionada para que nos deje saber. Voy a compartir un poquito de la cultura de mi tradición, mi práctica, que viene, como dije antes, de mi gente. Oh, perdón. Gracias por eso, Gia. No vi que tenía la mano alzada. Por favor, Gia.
Thank you. No worries. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Gia, she, her pronouns, calling in from Ohlone land here in Oakland. Sorry. Let me turn off my translation. Yes, I just wanted to share. I wanted to share appreciations for the practice. You know, I earlier during the community agreements when I shared that liberated zone in parentheses, I put like or freeing myself in the moment, and I feel like that's what I've been practicing through like meditation or just like through my therapy or just like trying to really get comfortable with my own consciousness. And so much of it is like literally believing the thoughts in my head or choosing, you know, it's like literally that kind of game. And it's been that kind of truth, right? So I feel like as I walk through the world, I'm also like feeling the pressure of like the society, right? And like lies and all these like things that are being told. And there's that like magical power that I'm like, not magical power, it's more like just like truth. Like it's like a truth in me that I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what it was, right? That it always felt like when I had a decision, it felt like my body, right? It felt like I knew it, even though I was scared to say it out loud. And in my practice, I've been trying to just believe myself or trying to just like choose for myself. And all I keep on writing in my diary is like, I just choose, like, I'm just like choosing that I choose peace, right? I choose all that kind of moment. So I feel like I've been in that search of like, part of it's like, I'm searching for affirmation and like approval that that's like your practice. And then that same voice is like, fuck that, like, you know, it was your practice. And it's like, I don't know. So I feel like, thank you for the validation of that at the same time of being like, girl, you already knew that. And I'm in love with that idea. So that's what I wanted to share. Thanks for having me here.
Gracias. Gracias por esa simultaneidad, que todas esas cosas son verdad a la misma vez sin que una se cancele a la otra. La afirmación y también que se joda, ¿ya? Que todas esas cosas son verdad a la misma vez. Y creo que es importante que se diga también a la voz alta que se joda algunas veces, porque me recuerdo que con la práctica de Gina, ella dice que ella tenía una maestra que le decía que cuando hablemos, que tenga la foto, la visión de que es como que físicamente algo está saliendo de tu boca. Así que alguna vez hay que mandar ese cuchillo de que se joda, para poder despejar o quitar algo que está, como Gina dijo, que ya no nos sirve, sacar de fuera narrativa que ya no nos sirven. Bueno, para seguir la conversación y también agregar otra medicina, es la práctica es mía, la práctica que me enseñó mi mamá, que la enseñó la mamá de ella y diferente gente en nuestra comunidad, es trabajar con las plantas, con la medicina de la tierra. Y nosotros somos medicina de la tierra, y también traer a esta conversación plantitas, porque alguna vez hasta el mismo tener acceso a nuestra voz no es literalmente posible. Algunas veces, y muchos de ustedes saben esto por el trabajo que han hecho de lo que es el impacto de trauma en nuestro cuerpo físico, muchas veces lo primero que se nos van a nosotros cuando estamos en un momento de crisis o un momento de susto, espiritual, emocional, físico, es la voz. Biológicamente, para mucha gente no tienen el acceso para poder tener voz en momentos de crisis. Entonces, voy a hablar un poquito de las plantitas que en mi vida han salvado mi vida y en mi cultura se han usado y pasado de gente a gente, y que sigue evolucionando acordante a lo que está pasando en este mundo. Entonces, también quiero decir eso, que esta medicina va cambiando porque nosotros cambiamos por impacto de la colonización y de la manera de cual nosotros vamos evolucionando. O sea que de la manera que yo estoy hablando de esta medicina es como una persona que se ha criado en este país, dentro de estos bordes, y yo y mis hermanos, mis hermanas, mis primes, nosotros somos los primeros, la primera generación que están criados aquí. O sea que ya la medicina ha cambiado, porque ya la estoy adquiriendo, y estoy en comunidad con estas plantas en esta tierra que no es la tierra de mi gente, por la colonización, por ser forzado a migrar para acá. Entonces quiero decir eso, que eso es parte de cómo la sanación y la justicia para nosotros y para la gente que practica muchas veces con medicina de la tierra está combinada, que literalmente a lo que tú tienes acceso no tiene acceso, tiene que ver con privilegio, tiene que ver con la colonización, tiene que ver con cómo se ha rompido esa conexión que puede ser que tenían con sus tierras indígenas, sus tierras originales de tu gente. Y también lo segundo que quiero decir es que hay mucha gente que practican el herbalismo, algunas veces se le dice, o la sanación con la tierra, con las plantas, pero también repito que eso no necesariamente tiene que ver con justicia. Y yo, de la manera que lo aprendí, es que yo quería mirar cuáles son las maneras de la cual el impacto de la opresión se estaba manifestando dentro de mi cuerpo, y usar eso como la entrada de qué es lo que yo quería sanar con la medicina de la tierra. O sea, como una persona que se ha criado como mujer, niña y mujer, ¿cuáles son los aspectos de la opresión que se manifiestan en mi cuerpo? ¿Cómo sentirme que siempre tengo que estar pendiente a lo que está pasando alrededor de mí? Que siempre tengo que ser más agresiva y tener una energía masculina para protección, que no es necesariamente como yo quiero ser, pero es lo que tengo que hacer para poder sobrevivir. Y si eso es un aspecto de mi vida que yo quería traerle sanación, ¿cuál es la planta que me la aporta? A la misma vez mirar eso del aspecto del privilegio. Si hay alguna manera que se está manifestando el privilegio en mi vida. Ser una persona de piel clara, una persona que puede ser que yo, los mensajes que he recibido, que yo puedo entrar para cualquier cuarto, decir lo que me da la gana, hacer lo que me da la gana, y todo lo que yo hago, aún como mujer negra, me lo encuentran exótico. Que si yo entro para una reunión del trabajo y yo estoy encojonada, ay, esa es la latina con fuego. Pero si fuera una persona de piel más oscura, no lo ven así. Ellos dicen, no, es demasiado agresiva y hay que botarla de aquí. Entonces, ¿cómo yo puedo mirar ese privilegio y también decir cómo yo me curo de mi pensar que yo tengo el derecho a la comodidad, que yo tengo el derecho que lo que yo diga se va a coger como la verdad? ¿Y qué planta o medicina de la tierra me aporta a sanar ese aspecto de mi vida que tiene que ver con el impacto del imperialismo, la colonización, la opresión, pero también los privilegios en mi vida. Ojalá que eso te está traduciendo bien. Estoy viendo que la gente me está dando el sí, pero ojalá que eso se esté traduciendo de una manera que se entiende, que para mí la sanación que tiene que ver con la tierra y las plantitas, perfecto, ajá, ok, estoy viendo que me están dando el sí, tiene que ver con cómo yo me sano del impacto del imperialismo, ¿sí? No solamente me duele el estómago, aunque eso está bien, pero también me duele el estómago porque estoy harta de tragar lo que yo tengo que decir, o sea que está conectado a algo emocional, está conectado a algo espiritual, está conectado a algo que tiene que ver con esos sistemas de opresión. Entonces quiero compartir un poquito de el proceso mío que de nuevo aprendí de mi gente. Estas son preguntas que yo me pregunto, cosas que yo hago y también algunas de las plantitas que, como yo dije antes, me han salvado la vida. Entonces, una de las preguntas que yo me pregunto para saber qué medicina se necesita en este momento es qué parte de mí o de mi gente anhelan sanación. Y también cuáles ofrecen medicina para la liberación. Yo cojo esa pausa para preguntar eso porque yo no puedo ser o no quiero ser tan arrogante a pensar que lo que yo me estoy inventando o esto es lo que yo estoy haciendo con la práctica de la medicina, como que yo me lo inventé. Como que yo me jalé de esto, de yo, así misma, yo soy tan importante y tan inteligente. No, este es un respeto y un honor que esta medicina viene de tradiciones de mis ancestres de la tierra y que todos tienen información para compartir. Y esta es una de las maneras que yo me pregunto, ¿qué medicina hace falta? Yo miro lo que está pasando en el mundo. Yo miro lo mismo que dijeron cuando abrimos el espacio. Hay mucha ruptura. Hay mucha gente aislada. Hay momentos que hay más depresión que en otro momento. ¿Qué es lo que me está diciendo el mundo que es la medicina que necesita? Y también mirar la historia de mi gente y lo que me están diciendo en este mundo. ¿Qué es lo que ya ofrecen? Una de las cosas, yo acabo de pasar 7 meses en la República Dominicana y es el tiempo más largo que he podido durar en la tierra de mi gente, en la isla de Haití, en el lado de la República Dominicana. Y una de las cosas de cual yo me di cuenta es que no importa lo que está pasando, el mundo se puede estar acabando, nosotros vamos a bailar, vamos a cantar, vamos a comer, vamos a singar, vamos a gozar. Literalmente, en una fiesta puede haber varias peleas, pero la fiesta no se para. O sea, la parte de mi gente que me están ofreciendo, me están diciendo, esto es una medicina, es recordarme esa simultaneidad de que no paramos una cosa para la otra. Y yo he llevado esa práctica cuando creo medicina, porque yo también cuando literalmente estoy creando medicina, estoy viendo algo o haciendo algo que me recuerda de por qué que yo estoy haciendo este trabajo. Escuchando la noticia, viendo lo que está pasando en el mundo, escuchando un podcast de alguien que me está enseñando algo. Entonces, es una de las preguntas que yo me pregunto para poder decir qué medicina hace falta en este momento. La otra cosa es recordarme que ya tenemos lo que necesitamos. Hay maneras de cual el capitalismo nos hace creer como que no, yo tengo que coger una clase, yo tengo que esperar que yo tenga este certificado, yo tengo que esperar que yo tenga este equipaje y la medicina que hacía mi mamá, los jarabes que ella hacía eran con las cosas que estaban disponibles. Literalmente esto es un jarabe. Nosotros nos criamos con asma y con muchas cosas que tenían que ver muchas condiciones del pecho que uno puede, para alguna cultura, ellos dicen que hay que uno agarra la lástima. Entonces, la lástima de perder conexión a la tierra, la lástima de perder, de que nos estaban dando golpe, mucha lástima. Entonces, eso se manifiesta como condición de los pulmones. Y ella tenía un jarabe siempre en el gabinete de miel, limón, cebolla y ajo, que no son cosas de que del otro mundo que tú tienes que esperar y coordinar lo que venga de otra parte de la isla, del continente, de lo que sea. Ya tenemos lo que necesitamos para crear medicina. Y entonces, estas son algunas medicinas que se van a sonar común, así que quiero oír, por favor, de la gente en el chat. Si tú y tu gente usan estas medicinas para sanación, por favor, compartan cómo la usan. La canela, nosotras la usamos como parte del té, bueno, criándonos lo decían té dominicano. que era para todo. Si era para subirte el ánimo, si era que tenía gripe, fiebre, y la receta era canela, jengibre, clavo, malagueta. Y al final un chin de limón, miel de abeja, y si era para que te duerma, para que descanse, le poníamos manzanilla. Pero también uno mira la medicina y tiene que preguntarse, bueno, no tiene, pero nosotros nos preguntamos, ¿qué parte de la planta es? Si yo estoy tratando de bajar la inflamación, que puede ser una reacción defensiva, que la intención es protegerme, pero ¿qué pasa con la inflamación? No deja que nada entre y no deja que nada salga, así que algunas veces nuestras defensas, puede ser que lo malo no entre, pero también deja que lo bueno no entre tampoco, ¿verdad? Es una defensa. Entonces, dependiendo de la potencia que yo quiero que tenga esa defensa, yo puedo decidir usar una planta como la canela, que es la parte afuera de la mata, la parte afuera del árbol. Es gruesa. Tú no puedes solamente ponerla en agua y decir que está preparada, boom. Tú tienes que hervirla, coge su tiempo. Entonces, es una medicina lenta. Entonces, una medicina que coge su tiempo. Y de esa misma manera yo tengo que pensar qué reacción es que yo quiero que tenga. Tal como cuando nosotros organizamos. Una táctica puede ser para el momento, pero esta otra táctica puede ser para largo plazo. Así que puede ser que cuando yo esté haciendo una estrategia, una táctica para mi movimiento, para una campaña que yo tengo, yo puedo invitar la defensa de la canela. Si es una táctica que va a ser para largo tiempo, para protegerme sobre el largo tiempo. Yo puedo usar otra cosa para protegerme del tiempo corto si yo quiero, pero en este instante yo voy a pensar para qué es que yo voy a invitar esta parte de la planta específicamente. Y yo puedo pensar en las propiedades biológicas, como es antiinflamatorio, es muy bueno para la presión alta, pero también quiero pensar en qué es lo que eso tiene que ver con los componentes espiritual. Veo que están diciendo en el chat que hay gente que queman la canela para cambiar la energía en la casa, para dormir y descansar y para perder peso. Lo enseñaron a comer un pedazo de chocolate para poder darle dulzura al espíritu en un tiempo de dolor. Entonces, son varios usos solamente de una plantita. Bueno, obviamente tenía más tiempo, pero cuando uno se pone en esto, el tiempo se va corriendo. Así que yo les voy a enseñar las fotos de las otras plantitas que, como he dicho, también la he usado y podemos hablar en otro momento de ellas, pero no voy a ir en detalle para que tengamos tiempo para Juju Bay. Pero por favor, sigan compartiendo de la manera de la cual, si alguna de estas plantas son parte de sus prácticas y su cultura, cómo la usan. Entonces había la canela, el jengibre, la malagueta. No sé si saben qué es clavo. La ortiga. Esto es saúco. Y la manzanilla. Y estoy viendo en el chat que están compartiendo otras plantitas que gente ha usado.
¿Dónde se consigue manzanilla? He tratado por años de conseguir manzanilla y romero. Menos mal ahora después de mi cirugía y no logro conseguirlo.
Que eso en la bodega. Mándame tu dirección que yo te la mando, pero en la bodega, si la quieres fresca, hay algunas compañías que tienen prácticas más sostenibles que otras, que yo estoy feliz de la vida para poder compartirla, si la quiero ordenar. Pero
te lo agradeceré si me mandas el link, por favor. Discúlpame por interrumpir.
No. Y también hay mucha gente que lo crecen localmente. Lo mejor es buscarlo local, lo más que pueda. Así que podemos compartir de dónde va a estar, qué lugar físico, y si hay gente que yo conozco que lo están creciendo donde tú estás físicamente, entonces mando esa información. El último punto que quiero hacer es lo que dije, que la conexión para nosotros siempre es que la planta primariamente es parte de la medicina de la tierra, entonces nos reúne con la conexión a la tierra. Nos reúne a que nosotros no hacemos esta sanación soles y que si no incluye a la tierra, no es sanación completa. porque sin la tierra no tenemos dónde estar, no estamos aquí, no tenemos esa conexión. Y que lo que nosotros, para la cual nosotros lo usamos, puede estar conectada íntimamente a la experiencia que estamos teniendo acordante de nuestras identidades y la visión que queremos crear para nuestra liberación, que no es solamente dame yo sanar lo que me ha pasado, como dijo Gina, pero dame yo también entonces usar esta medicina para cambiar la dirección de mi vida, invitar lo que yo quiero crear y usar, no usar, y está en relación con la tierra para poder empoderarme para hacer eso. Entonces yo sé que acabamos con Juju a buen tiempo esta sesión, porque sé que vas a combinar de lo que yo hablé, de lo que Gina habló, en la práctica que ella trae. Así que por favor, denle la bienvenida a Juju.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Gina and Heidi. I can't lie, and I'm going to be honest about where I am right now. I'm so emotional. Like, I'm so emotional today. I'm teary. I was crying when Miss Gina was doing the sound healing. I was feeling emotional when Heidi was talking about our relationship to land and liberation. So thank you for allowing me to be emotional as I speak today, and just ask for your patience and grace with me. So my practice, for those who don't know, I am a whole bunch of things. I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I do energy healing. But a big part of my work is ancestral healing, ancestral veneration, honoring where we come from, honoring the people that brought me here, whose names that we know and whose names that we don't know, all the way back to our first ancestor. And it also, I see the ancestor and earth as someone who practices African traditional religion and religions of the diaspora, that the land is very much our ancestor. The land, that we are born from the land. We are born from, the depths of the dirts. The land is what, and nature is what holds the deceased. It's what holds our ancestors' bodies. So venerating ancestors is also caring deeply about the land, the water, nature, earth, our climate, etc., because we can understand from an indigenous aspect that none of these are separate, that we cannot separate and should not separate who we are from the land, from an animal, even. Like we're all very much connected. And so I think I'm gonna first read the card that I have. So typically when I'm reading for you all, I pull from the Adinkra Ancestral Guidance deck, which is symbols of the Akan folks of Ghana. But today I'm going to actually be reading from the Chalks of Kikongo deck, which is from our Kikongo ancestors in Central Africa. And so this first card that I pull monthly cards in my own community, and I want to share one of the monthly cards with you all. And it's this, one of the cards is Earth's Medicine. That was the card of September. This is also the card of life, but this is the card of September. And I want to talk about what it means to reconnect with the earth during this month and the months after, in order to find our own healing and liberation. So what does this mean? Much of what Heidi was talking about is what this card is saying. It's that reconnection to land, that reconnection to nature, that reconnection to plants, plant medicine. And it doesn't mean that we all have to be herbalists. It does not mean that we all have to get a degree in herbalism or even take a class. I always want to empower folks that we're all healers and we all have the capacity to heal ourselves and to be healers within our community. Some folks just dive into it a little bit more, but we all have the capacity and we all are healers. And we all, again, have access to this medicine. Because if a medicine is not accessible, it's really not that healing. It's really not liberatory, essentially, if it's not accessible to people. So like Heidi was saying, the medicines that we have access to a little bit more easier, like cinnamon, for example, or chamomile, for example, these are things with a little bit of work that we could probably find somewhat easy, right? And so knowing the meanings behind what these plants say to us is what gets us on the path, like, oh, I know if I'm grieving, I could turn to this thing in order to help my grief. And then once I know that, can share it amongst my community so that we can all process our grief through this particular medicine. So I'm going to read from the book about what Earth's medicine means from a Kikongo perspective. So without the Earth's offerings, there would be no medicines, no magic, and no existence of life. As Indigenous people, we understand and honor the relationship we as human beings have with the earth. We understand that it is our duty and in our best interest to protect and respect the sacred medicines. Take the time to learn about their powers. Build an intimate relationship that is based on respectful cohabitation. Let's not forget that we are guests on the land. Some other meanings for this card is to try an herbal medicinal approach, engage with plants, roots, flowers, barks responsibly, everything in moderation, because a medicine can easily turn into a poison when we start extracting. That's how we have the medical industrial complex. So being mindful of how we're engaging with these medicines and having mutual respect, and also understanding that everything has a spirit. So we're respecting the spirit of these plants just as we would respect other individuals, other people. It also says, now may be a good time to take a spiritual bath made with herbs, plants, and flowers. Speak your intention into them and thank them for the work that they will do. Clear the energy and cleanse your home with houseplants. They will teach you about reciprocity, and become familiar with the native trees, plants, flowers in your environment. They are your spiritual allies. So, of course, because we are in the digital age, we can order and have access essentially to any kind of plant that we want. And there are local plants. Nature knows, earth knows. So think about the weeds, quote unquote, that grow around you. What are the weeds that you see on your sidewalk? There's so many apps that you can take a picture and see what that plant is. You can see the medicinal properties. Then you can go right on over to Google and look up spiritual properties of this weed, right? And you'll see like, oh, I have been having a lot of trauma and grief in my neighborhood, me. And that we have a lot of plants around here like mugwort that heal trauma and grief. No one planted the mugwort. It's just in access where I am. So I encourage folks also to be mindful of just what is around you already. Of course, you can go to the store and buy some basil, you can buy some cinnamon, but go outside and see. That is an accessible way to find the properties that we can use on our liberation path and healing journey. When I talk about the power of roots and plants, I always have to talk about the root called High John root. And I think we have some images for you all too to see. But High John was or is an elevated ancestor, and he was a formerly enslaved man who was, they say Ghana, but that the story is that he was taken from Ghana, and he was brought over to the southern United States. And High John was just one of our enslaved ancestors that he somehow kept an uplifting spirit. He always was playing jokes on the slave masters. He could always weasel his way out of punishment. He just was the energy of the trickster, which comes up a lot in a lot of African and diasporic stories. There's always like this energy of the trickster. So High John the Conqueror was the trickster. And everyone always reached out to him if they were like, oh, John, I'm having trouble over here. I'm having trouble with this master. Can you get me out of this situation? I may be punished. And John would come and everyone would be okay and even somehow laugh in the face of violence. So a very powerful figure in person. So when High John, actually, I'm sorry, after emancipation of slavery, and High John and he was passing around this time, he said, if y'all ever need me again, it's my time to go. But if you ever need me again, I'm going to leave my spirit in this root. I'm going to leave my spirit in this root. So anyone in possession of this root can call on me and I will come to bring protection. I will come to help you fight, to resist the energy essentially of white perversion and supremacy. And I will also help you keep an uplifted spirit in the midst of it. So we know that High John fought back, but he also was funny. so keeping all of that energy within us. So he put himself in that root. So we have access to this root. Now, because of, marketeered works and extraction, the original High John root is Apomia ponderata, which is the morning glory flower that I'm sure folks have seen. They're typically like a purplish color or a white color. It is the root of that flower. Now, most of the time, the High John that people have now is Apomia jalapa, which is not native to the southern United States, but it is something that we have access to and that it is sold as High John root. Essentially, we can use what we have. So whether you have access to the root of a morning glory, or you can order or buy or find some Apomia jalapa, it is all High John. Some of our ancestors, to connect with High John in moments of difficulty, use peach pits. Because if you all see the picture here, it's like a little brown kind of funny looking root, but it also looks like a peach pit. So again, also using what we have, it is our intention behind it. And when we're in moments of difficulty, when we're doing frontline work, sometimes I pass out High John root for organizers and activists who are needing their spirits to be uplifted, but also needing intense protection as they're doing liberation work. We can tap into the root of High John. We can call on High John to protect us. We can call on High John to lift our spirits and help us to win, and as an ally. And of course, we do this in reverence. We do this in getting to know the spirit of whatever we are carrying with us. And I encourage folks, not just for High John, but whatever plant or root or medicine that you feel called to look up its properties. See how it could assist in your liberation work. See how it is liberatory on its own, in its essence. I think we can learn a lot about liberation through learning about nature and through learning about through the land. So that is my High John story. If you look up High John, you'll see a lot of amazing stories. You'll even, Frederick Douglass even talks about it in his autobiography around not believing in the power of High John. And a root worker actually gave Frederick Douglass a High John root, and Frederick Douglass went back on the plantation after running away and beat his slave master's ass and then left again and to freedom, and attributing some of it to High John root, because he had the power to face an adversary because of the power of the root. Yes, giving very much vibranium energy. Okay, so wanted to share that, and then I'm going to read quickly the two other cards that came up, and then I will finish. So the next card that I pulled is the card is tethered. And when I pulled this I was like, how is this relevant to anything? But when Heidi was talking, I was like, oh, so I'm just gonna read the tethered card. And how we are connected to spirit. Without the dead, there is nothing. The spirit world and living world are tethered together. What is done here in the living realm is also done in the spiritual realm. It is in the space of overlap where we are able to communicate with spirit, and spirit is able to manifest and communicate with us. Acknowledge how you engage with the spiritual dimension on an everyday basis. This is consciously and unconsciously. Continue to seek wisdom from the unseen to further understand the seen. So, as we talked about earlier, being in nature in its essence teaches us how to heal, how to live amongst those that are different than us, because nature is it is diverse. It shifts, it changes. What can we learn about the seasons if we have difficulty transitioning into new phases of our life? How can we sit with the spirit of as we move from summer to fall now? What can we learn about that? How can we apply that into our own lives as we transition as people? Okay. Some other meanings of tethered is that the well-being of your spirit and the well-being of your body are interdependent. Make sure to equally tend to both. Contracts, yokings, and soul connections. In the African framework, it is believed that we commit to specific contracts prior to us coming into the world. Whether those contracts include your life's purpose, people, and certain experiences, consult with your spiritual comrades to remind you of the spiritual oaths that you have taken so that you may execute your commitments here on earth with clarity and with fluidity. So, all that I mean, be careful of what we are binding ourselves to. What are we tethering ourselves to? Who are we tethering ourselves to? Should we be tethering ourselves to those people, those situations, those experiences? Sometimes we tether ourselves to experiences of our past that not just our past informing us, that's good, that's sankofa. We learn from our past. But when we tether ourselves to our past, that we don't create opportunity for there to be any present or for us to have a different future if that's what we want. So this card is just asking us to be mindful and then to bring in the earth medicine again. What medicines can we use so that we are tethered to the commitments that we have made before we came down here to do the work that we have to do, and not the distractions and not the bullshit and not the fuckery, for lack of a better word. So this is about recognizing our behaviors, recognizing our addictive behaviors, what we obsess over. Is it worth obsessing over? Maybe sometimes, maybe for a short period, but always we have to ask ourselves these really, really hard questions, y'all. And then lastly, really quick, the card I pulled while Heidi was talking was grounding. Have a grounding practice for yourself that you can rely on. And I know sometimes it's like, well, I'm not about to turn on no chakra music and sit for an hour. And, that's a thing you can do, but it doesn't always have to be that. What are the things that you incorporate into your life, into your work, me, I have to breathe. Like before I do anything, I really just have to intentionally breathe. That is a healing practice. It doesn't take that much for me to stop and pause and breathe. So finding the grounding that just kind of flows, and it doesn't have to be something that you have to put a whole bunch of time aside to, though sometimes we do need to put time aside. But see what flows for you. And I will read this and I will be done. Okay, so the grounding card. Just as the Earth's core functions as a protective magnetic shield against harmful external energies, so does our internal core. The act of grounding allows us to center ourselves and tap into our core power, giving us the autonomy over the energies we choose to allow in our space. The more consistent we are with our grounding practices, the more familiar we become with our true selves. This work supports you in becoming deeply rooted with the powerful cosmic source. Think of grounding as a recalibration. After you have dispensed yourself into the worldly obligations, it is essential to recenter and restore. Again, we have the energy of the earth coming up again. Earth is your ally. Honor, talk to her, thank her, and leave offerings and learn from the earth. Now may also be the time to examine or re-examine your foundations. Make sure the grounds on which you plant are fertile and can sustain longevity. Meditation is just one way to ground. Explore what works for you. And grounding is a protection ritual. Grounding is a protection ritual. It's how we can protect our emotions. It's how we can protect our mental and our spirits. So encouraging the grounding, encouraging folks to step outside if they can and learn from the plants and the medicine that is already around you. If you feel connected to the High John story, encouraging you to learn more. And if you feel so called to get some for yourself, please do that. And folks can also just feel free to share what their grounding practices are. Maybe it will inspire somebody else, or also how they may connect to the earth around them in ways that are accessible and liberatory. Thank you all.
Veo que ya lo están haciendo, pero si quieren compartir una gracia para Juju con cualquier sonido en voz alta. Y también coger un momento para dejar un espacio después de poder compartir en un grupo. A ver, entonces, ¿qué es lo que todo esto significa para ti? So, en este momento, si después de oír de las plantas, del sonido, de los mensajes que estaban mandando esas barajas, vamos a coger un momento, un minuto, a ver si algo está en su corazón que se quiere presenciar en este momento y que no lo quieren olvidar. De cualquier manera que sea bueno para usted, que sea posible para ustedes. Si eso es con un movimiento, si eso es con escribir algo, vamos a coger un minuto para eso, para ver qué conexiones se están haciendo para ustedes mismos.
Can I share something? Are we
Sí.
supposed to share something right now? I'm
Si
sorry.
quieren,
Like,
no, si quieren, sí, por favor.
okay, if I might, like, I was like, I don't know where we are right now. So one of the things that Yeah, so one of the things everyone is talking about are the ways in which we are connected to kind of the land around us, right? And the earth and all of the different ways that works. Even Gina spoke about the way in which we're connected to rivers and the land around us and the connection to that, to vibration. And one of the things that's really sitting with me is an experience that I had yesterday that I am still trying to make sense of. I told Geneset the story yesterday, where one of the things that I felt really compelled to do, I think I also shared this with Gina, but one of the things that I felt compelled to do when here in Savannah was to go to a place on St. Simon's Island called Ibu Landing. The weird thing, it's called Ibu Landing on St. Simon's. And one of the things that I had forgotten about my own past, so I grew up in Atlanta. And one of the things that I had forgotten is that I used to spend part of a couple of summers actually on St. Simon's Island on the Sea Island in camp. Totally forgot until like when I was reading this thing about the Sea Islands in June on Juneteenth, and it all came back to me. And then I was like, I need to go there. And then when we had the announcement of the Savannah convening, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to Savannah. And so one of the things that I did yesterday when I got here was I actually drove there. I drove to St. Simon's Island and I drove to Ibu Landing. Ibu Landing is a place where 70 some odd people who were from Africa and captured in enslavement and were brought to the United States were a part of a larger slave ship, of course, that landed in Savannah. And then this smaller cohort of 70 some odd people were put on a smaller ship and were being transferred to the Sea Islands. They were on a boat that was manned by 3 white people who were the ship's crew that were transferring there. Somehow they got control of that ship, and then they murdered the 3 people, and then they all decided to drown themselves collectively. And this may be jogging memory because it served as a model and inspiration for some of the things that Toni Morrison has written. And so when you search it, it's literally on a map. So I drove there, and the fascinating thing about Ibu Landing when you get there is that you can't get there. And you can't get there because in every way that you could have access to the place where that ship beached, people on St. Simon's have found a way to cut it off. And they've cut it off in a lot of different ways. On the one side of it is like a neighborhood. And for anyone who knows anything about St. Simon's Island, it's an extremely wealthy neighborhood. It's become so like in the last 25 years in particular, but it's like Hilton Head, but further south. It's like a very wealthy retirees go there. As I was driving on the island, I hadn't seen so many, it's like luxury car central, right? And, you know, as is wont for really wealthy people, there's a really high premium on aesthetics, you know, like, so like this land was brought by the St. Simon's Island Trust, so you can't build on it. And they have very strict building rules. And, you know, all these things have to sit in the land in a certain way. So on the one side is this wealthy neighborhood where you have to essentially walk on this rich white person's property to try to get to the river. And you can't do that. So then like I did a thing where I walked around to the other side, and I'd read this online, but I couldn't really believe it until I saw it. But on the other side where you could try to get to it is they put a wastewater plant, like right on the site. And then kind of in between the neighborhood and the wastewater plant, there clearly was some sort of a trail like in the past. And then when you walk down it, they've put up this giant earthen work, like blocked total access to the water. And then if you were to try to cross the river on the other side and come out, you can't, because that's all preserved marshland. So literally like cut off, blocked any way to get there. And there is something about, you know, this connection where we do have these daily grounding rituals that everyone has spoke about, which are important. But there's also this larger connection to land and to memory that also has to be present, right? Sometimes the things are bigger than our individual things that we can do. That's why we have ritual, right? That's why a lot of our traditions have rituals, and rituals are about bringing people together, because there's certain things that have to be collectivized in our experience. It can't only be individual. And then there's something that happens with memory when those things are literally cut off, like literally blocked and intentionally blocked. There's actually a huge earth mover. All my different languages are coming, digger. I'm forgetting what the English word is right now, but when the thing you use to move the earth, where they put up this giant earthwork, right? And so in every single way, they've cut off the memory of that place and then surrounded it by this idea of like wealth and exclusivity that's only preserved for whiteness, but they can only do that by cutting off the memory of tragedy and Black people and the idea of what the island was in the first place. And so I don't know why this is coming to me, but this idea of like, what happens when we are literally blocked and cut off from certain types of experiences, rituals, and groundings. And I say this as a person who doesn't, you know, I don't know, I have a lot of flexibility in terms of the ability to connect and what I think is possible, but it was something very stark about coming up against, you know, these very like these literal physical barriers. I mean, how they defiled it with a wastewater plant. And how we reclaim that, because as you know, Gina said, they're really, freedom and healing have to go together. But a part of healing is justice, and a part of justice is honoring, right? There are all these ways in which these things are tied. So I'm really thinking about that. And the other thing that I also thought about when I saw that earth was also about how like, sometimes when we have terrible events like we've been experiencing with great rapidity recently, that those catastrophes are actually clearings, right? Like, I was like, what is gonna move, you know, what moves this neighborhood, what moves this earth, what moves this water plant? Like, there are things that nature can do to move those things literally out of the way. I don't know. So those are the things that I'm just sitting with in this connection, and this, you know, I don't know, this combination of like grounding and earth honoring and collective experience that's needed, and also being literally cut off by, in some of the ways, by the society that we live in. Oh, one last thing. So there was this Black guy there. I was almost like he was supposed to meet me there. So I was like driving around, and I finally found this little road, and then I drove down it. That's when I encountered the earthworks. There was a Black man in a pickup truck. And after a while, he sees me like looking and seeing if I can find a way to go around or like over or whatever. And so then he's like, what are you looking for? And I was like, I'm looking for Eagle Landing. And then he was like, well, the only way to get there is through this water plant, and you can't really do that. And I was like, that's the only way. And I go, yeah. And then at some point, like, he got seized by fear. Like, he got really afraid that I was asking, and what I was asking about, and why I was asking. And that was also another thing that I am struck with, the way in which people can sometimes be afraid, even if they are of us or our own experiences, of those connections and of those recognitions, because there's something about needing to deny and be bought into this experience. So I'm sorry if that was rambling, but I was really brought up a lot of stuff when you guys were talking.
No, no tiene por qué pedir perdón. Eso fue a buen tiempo. Porque hiciste tanta conexiones a exactamente la conversación que hemos estado teniendo. Y también siento que sembraste preguntas, reflexiones que son necesarias, que ustedes pueden continuar en los pods. Porque vi que habían gente que aunque no están en su pantalla, estaban afirmando, aplaudiendo, diciendo como que absolutamente todos esos puntos de quién tiene acceso, qué pasa si no es con las tierras originales de UNES, qué pasa cuando están bloqueados intencionalmente y como hemos estado diciendo y como tú estás diciendo, cómo podemos mantener esa conexión como quiera. Que aún con lo que pongan en el medio del camino, que traten de bloquear, uno tiene opciones porque estas mismas medicinas, esos mismos momentos, esa gente decidir hacer que eso es lo que ellos iban a hacer con sus vidas, es matar a esa gente, coger ese bote y ellos hundirse, uno tiene opción, decisión y la oportunidad para crear al medio de toda esta opresión que está pasando, simultaneidad, todas esas cosas están pasando a la misma vez. Así que me estás reemocionando. Y quiero ofrecer la oportunidad para que Juju, si tú puedas cerrar este círculo, este tiempo, si estás inspirada a compartir la canción que vino a tu corazón en lo que estaba compartiendo Imara, para cerrar nuestro tiempo, si te sientes que puedes, que nos puede honrar con eso. Perfecto.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you to Imada for sharing that story. And, some of the tales is that our ancestors who overthrew themselves with the ship actually flew away. Some of them went into the seas and some of them caught wings and went back home. So this song is about being descendant of those people with wings. And I cannot think of the organizer who wrote this song, but perhaps someone knows in the chat, please uplift whose song it is, because we sing it together a lot. Okay. We are the children of the ones who did not die. We are the children of the people who could fly. We are the children of the ones who persevered. We are fearless and we are strong and we're ready to carry on. I'll sing again. We are the children of the ones who did not die. We are the children of the people who could fly. We are the children of the ones who persevere. We are fearless, we are strong, and we're ready to carry on.
Amén, amén, H. Gracias, gracias, gracias. Gracias a todos.